Ko Adrian Rafi, 5 minutes.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. We've heard many very good contributions to this debate, sir. Keeping our children safe is one of the most important things that our society can do. And one of the things that is not addressed by this bill but is important to be mentioned is parents being able to keep their children safe. And I acknowledge the previous speaker, Sir, because I totally agree with what she has said. This bill, and I congratulate the Minister for bringing this bill to the House, and that the Select Committee will be able to deal with this bill efficiently and in a way that it needs to, so that our children can be protected. But it is only a small part of the equation, I think. My understanding and the way I read things is that it deals with those who potentially will reoffend. It is the offenders that have already offended that go onto the register. And that just deals with a small percentage of the overall potential offenders out there. But an important step that can potentially prevent further harm to children within our society, sir. So for that, I acknowledge that it is important. The register and the sharing of that information is important to recognise as well, and to also identify the potential risk there and the rights of those people who will be registered on that register. It does break new ground in that sense, and I think the Select Committee will have some important work to do around it. There is certainly, I think, a test that will need to be met for this register and the processes involved in it to be effective. And I stand here to acknowledge that and highlight that issue. So the rights of those people need to be recognised as well, and what the long-term impact is going to be, I don't know, but I certainly think that's a question that the Select Committee needs to ask. The number of the increase in offending against children, and over 50% of all sexual offending has been against children. That is such a terrible statistic. That is something that not only needs to be dealt with through this bill, but also needs to be dealt with in the way that all agencies deal with our families. The government has a policy on whānau ora. I think it's whānau ora, from my understanding, is one of those policies that needs to be interwoven in every single piece of legislation that affects our families. And I want to put it to the Select Committee that they should also take notice of that policy, the government's own policy on that issue, and apply it to this, and to make sure that it considers every other measure that it can in empowering families to take responsibility for themselves, and also to look at providing additional resources for families to be able to keep their children safe. I think that's the main message that I want to give to the House and to the Select Committee on this issue, sir. We support this bill to go to Select Committee, but with reservations, to ensure that the Select Committee does all that it can to make this the best that it can be. Thank you.